On today's episode of MotoCheez.
The following movie is rated
I.
So I'm going to use this video as an opportunity to have a refresher for some stuff that a lot of people ask about that maybe weren't so clear in some of my other videos. Normally this is the kill switch, but on this bike and a couple other bikes, that's a four-way flasher. That is the starter button. You have to have a clutch in. That is the safety circuit to make sure the clutch is in so the starter will run. On this bike, that shuts the headlight and the lights off. That turns them on. That's high beam. That's low beam. Left signal. Push to cancel. Right signal. Push to cancel. And horn. This is too much play for the throttle tube. This is the adjustment. Make sure you turn the wheel both ways, full cock, and make sure to still play. You do not want this tight, and you do not adjust the idle this way. That's the choke. That's full choke, half choke, off choke. This little tiny hole underneath the bottom of this carburetor, that's where the mixture is. That's the air fuel mixture. There's normally a plug that you have to take out on the stock carburetors. If you buy an aftermarket carburetor, it's more easily accessible. When this carburetor is on full choke and you go to start it, full choke is up, you're going to have to give it a little throttle by hand and keep it running, because this is not fuel injected. So keep it running, start it, then go to half choke for about 20-30 seconds, keeping the bike running with your hand throttle, and then you can put the choke totally off. After about a minute, it should idle. If not, this is the idle screw. If your bike doesn't idle, you turn this in. There is no set turns, you have to do it by ear. If the idle's too high, turn it out. Make sure your bike is fully warmed up before you adjust the idle, because when it's cold, it's going to idle really low, and when it warms up, it's going to raise. It's just how it is with carburetors. This is your clutch adjustment. Right now, that's about right. This is how you adjust it. Same thing. Make sure you turn your handlebars full cock both ways. You notice all the way to the right, there's a little more. Tighten this by hand, don't over tighten it. Right, Kirby? I've heard of people stripping those. When the bike is brand new, sometimes people cannot get their transmission into neutral while it's running with the clutch in. This bike, from brand new, I could get it in. But some of them, the plates have to wear in on the clutch, and it will work after a while, after the clutch wears in, as long as you keep the right slack. Your chain slack is going to have to be adjusted when you buy the bike too. This is a little bit tight. It should have a hair more slack. This sight glass is how you check the oil. The bike has to be off the kickstand and level. That is the proper level. When you change the oil, it is exactly 1 quart. That is it. It's good from there, which I'm leaning the bike towards me, to there, because that's the high and the low mark. When you get your bike, check every bolt you can get to, and then some. Don't over tighten and break them either. Some people use Loctite. I prefer RTV silicone gasket maker. That's I found to be the best for vibration, especially if you want to take the screw off in the future to work on a bike. Loctite makes it a little more difficult. The siliconized RTV comes right off easy, and it won't let the bolt vibrate off because it's like a rubber. I have many people ask me about that. The brake lever is way too low. Now it's not as simple as just adjusting this or this, and I'm going to explain why. because if this was high like most of these are, and I see that they did a revision here, and you adjust this screw down, see that little play before it pushes up that master cylinder plunger? If this is pushed down like this, that means when that rear rotor gets hot and expands onto that caliper, it's going to push back on this hose, and it's not going to have anywhere to go, which means it's going to keep heating up until it locks up that back tire. So when you adjust this pedal by this screw, make sure you have that little bit, at least a tiny bit, before it hits that internal plunger. Now I just adjusted that up. I'm going to sit on it and feel how that feels to my foot. I'm probably going to take these off, so of course it should be adjusted with these off. That's comfortable to me. But now there's too much slack on this master, so I'm going to adjust the master so it ends up having about this much, which is just a little bit, but enough to open up the hole so the pressure will be relieved to go back up into the reservoir. Make sure there's still enough thread in here. That I'm happy with. I can't really go much further or else I'm not going to have enough thread bolted into there. I'm happy with that, although it's a hair much. I'm happy with that. I'll take a little bit more out of there. And that's perfect. That's the slack. That's pushing the master. This is a CG Honda clone. It's a 5-speed transmission with neutral between first and second. That right there is an oil strainer. It's not a filter. These motors come with a centrifugal filter, which is on the other side of the motor that you're supposed to clean every 10,000 miles. You can take that out just to see if there's any big chunks of stuff, but it's not really a filter, it's just a screen. That right there is the oil drain. This is the petcock. That's off. This is on. And that is reserve. These gas tanks are 3.5 gallons. Roughly 3 gallons or 2.9 when you're on. When you run out of gas, you flip it to reserve and you should have about a half a gallon to get to where you got to go. That right there, not all of them have it, is a filter, a strainer style filter. That's a good addition. A lot of them don't have it, so a lot of people end up putting an inline filter. A lot of people put these shift levers on a little too high because they think when you ride your foot's supposed to be under this at all times. But I always keep this lever level with this, because I've noticed if people keep these too high, they have a difficult time trying to shift. I personally run 18 pounds of pressure in the front and the rear. You can go a little bit lower for off-road, a little higher if you're on road all the time, but that to me seems like about the perfect pressure for the front and rear tire. Unless you have a passenger, then you want to add, probably have about 24.
Hey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Hit that bell if you want new notifications on new videos. Links for products to use are in the description and on MotoCheez.com. Thanks for watching.